And we want to take a closer look at today's impeachment vote. Please welcome to the studio former U.S. Assistant U.S. Attorney David Weinstein, now an attorney in private practice here in Miami.
Okay, so David, thank you for coming in. No surprise that the vote was mostly along party lines with the exception of Mitt Romney. What do you make of the arguments that say, yes, he did something wrong, but it doesn't rise to the level of impeachment?
Well, it would make sense if those arguments were in the context of a criminal trial where we know the proof is beyond a reasonable doubt. So yes, the government's proven that some of these things happened, but they haven't proven their case beyond a reasonable doubt. In this instance, that's not what the standard was. And so for them to say, yes, he did something wrong, but it doesn't rise to the level of impeachment, well, tell us what your standard is. What is the level that would require an impeachment guilty vote? And none of them have done that. Certainly nobody on the Republican side. The Democrats have said, yes, this all does rise to that level, and that's why I'm voting to impeach, and Romney as well.
David, what about this news that we're hearing now that the chairman of the House Judiciary Committee, Gerald Nadler, may be calling John Bolton to testify? What is the point in having more testimony about this Ukraine incident if now the Senate has voted not to remove the president?
Well, Bolton may not have information only about the Ukrainian incident. He may have information about other things that the committee is looking into. Some of what he says about the Ukrainian incident may have bearing on what they're looking at. It may show a pattern and practice of conduct. There may be some additional information he has that we're not aware of. And that's not the only investigation that's going on. There's still investigations in the Southern District of New York, in the Manhattan DA's office, of not only the president, but of certain entities and organizations that are connected to him. So the information that Bolton may have may be relevant to Nadler's investigation, but it could also simply be for general public consumption, to let the public hear what they couldn't hear during the course of the impeachment trial.
So say Nadler gets a lot of evidence. I mean, what happens again? They impeach him again? I mean, what are the options here?
They could bring another set of articles of impeachment on different grounds. You can't go back and impeach him again on the same two articles that you brought him on. Or there could be other matters that they're looking into, not necessarily to the level of impeachment. Perhaps now they'd be looking for a censure as opposed to an impeachment, another way to reprimand the president for the actions that they believe he took were in violation of the Constitution.
Now, there's also an investigation going on in Congress on the president's finances, and we're expecting a major ruling by the U.S. Supreme Court in June. We're months away from that. How do you see that legally?
Well, when that ruling comes down, that's going to authorize some subpoenas to go out and some answers to be given and some additional investigations to move forward. That's going to be even closer to the general election that we're going to be going over in November. A lot of that will then play out for perhaps whichever side wins in their favor, and they'll be able to say, well, this we would have brought at another time, and now we're giving it to you now. And the Republicans' message was, let's leave this up to the voters to decide in November. Well, if those documents and testimony and evidence come out, well, that's additional information that voters will be looking at in November when they make their decision whether or not this president's going to serve another 4-year term. So
there aren't a lot of examples to look to in history of this country, but now that this process is played out, it's over, what are your general impressions when you compare it to the impeachments of the past?
Well, we don't have enough records, really, certainly not the type we look at now with the impeachment proceedings with Jackson. We all know what happened with the Clinton impeachments, and we saw a lot of that rehashed during this proceeding. They were showing testimony from people who saw where it was. I think that people felt that that was a more fair trial because it was more of a traditional trial. They heard from witnesses. They heard what it was being considered, and whether people considered the charge to be a small charge or not a small charge. They at least heard what the testimony was and heard what they had to say. In this one, unlike any other trial I've ever seen, we didn't hear any witnesses. There was no testimony. It was all nothing but argument, and arguing to a bunch of jurors who had already decided what their verdict was going to be before they even heard one smithering of any evidence.
So if anybody had any doubt that this was a political process rather than a legal process, what you handle on a regular basis in a court of law, this set the record straight.
It's erased it by now. This was by no means anything other than a political process.
Right. David Weinstein, thank you very much.
Thank you, David.
You're welcome.